Hello and welcome to the round 24 review after the Blues get done by the Saints. 11 goals 8, 74 to 11 goals 10, 76. At the death, and Jack Higgins gets added to the honorary list of opposition players who have broken our hearts. For a moment, you got Robbie Gray, Jamie Elliott, you got Nick Dacos, and now you got Jack Higgins. Yesterday, Sunday, the 25th of August, 2024, was one of, if not the most bizarre sequence of events I've ever experienced as a supporter. And I genuinely mean that. Like, that roller coaster of emotions from the start of that day to the end of that game to the end of that day. Batshit crazy what went on yesterday. Yesterday was special for a number of reasons. My brother-in-law came back. He's back with us now. And we went to the footy together, all of us. It was awesome. We had lunch beforehand. Made a proper day of it, as you do with the footy. Got excited, had a few beers, had a tequila shot. Just ready for the day. I logically knew that we probably were going to lose, if I'm honest, throughout the morning. Logically, when you looked at it, you looked at the form, you looked at the team. Logically, I didn't know how we were going to win the game, if I'm being dead honest. But obviously, you're a supporter. You got to go and you got to go, and you can probably hear from my voice. It's a little bit, it's been rocked a little bit, but you've just got to get there and you've just got to make noise and you've got to support and you got to believe in order to support. You can't just sit there and, be biscuit-assed. It's the greatest word of all time. You got to get around it. I didn't think the Saints had killer instinct in them. I didn't think that they would want to continue on when the game was pressing and it got tight and tense, because I thought we had more to play for. And, we get to Marvel. Beautiful day. I remember early in the day saying, gee, I wish this was at the MCG, but beautiful day. Get to Marvel nice and early. Hear the news that Mitch McGovern's are laid out, which just, you add another one to the list. And I thought it was a bit strange that Fantasia came in and then came into the team as opposed to came in and maybe was the sub. I think I just wanted to see more Ashton, but obviously the coaches think that he's just not ready for a full game just yet. Vossi did allude to that in his press conference. So there's that. And, we geared up and we hoped, and that was it. We hoped for the best. It was painful. The first half was painful. The effort was there all day. But again, we've been through that. Effort is a job and a responsibility, and they were gallant and they tried their very best. But I thought that first half, we just weren't able to play with an intelligence. We didn't take our opportunities. There were, I was looking at it really like a final, because that's what it was yesterday to me early in the day. I think Durden and Kennedy have set shots which really, for the quality that I have them both in, got to be taking those opportunities. And they are both players that have been in games over the last few years where, they've had the moment. So, they missed those two early. And I remember thinking at the time, I just hope that those two shots don't come back and hurt us later in the game, because I felt that scoring opportunities weren't going to be, plentiful. So we get to the second quarter. Crowd starts getting a little animated. The bullshit chant starts early in that quarter. That's very unique because, with the fans and the supporters and the crowd, I think for us, we get up and about where there's a lot of intensity defensively and a lot of tackles. Or if there's a chant that can break out, or the Carlton clap, clap chant, if that can break out. and everyone buys into it. It's great. Or when we get reamed by the umpires, and I think at that point it might have been 11-1 and the bullshit chant just goes wild. It was great. It was great to be a part of that. Benzie kicks a huge goal. Then we get the goal umpire subbed, and that was awful. At the time of filming, I don't really know the details of it, other than that was not a cheer squad member. The cheer squad and the bay there, it's a dry area, so it's hard to imagine someone who was sitting in that bay did that. From what I am told, and from what I've read, and from what I've seen, and from what I've heard, somebody just ran in and threw it. I don't know who they supported. The circumstantial evidence would suggest it was a Carlton supporter, because I don't think St Kilda supporters would have been too mad at that point. But yeah, that was just awful. It's just like unnecessary, but whatever. The Saints kicking with precision. They were very impressive, the Saints. You got to give it to them. And you know what? I'll also give it up to their cheer squad. They were fantastic. I was sitting on the cheer squad end for the Saints on level 2. They were right below me. And they were fantastic. Their chants were creative. The Mason Wood chant was creative. When the Saints didn't have the run of play, they lifted. I was really impressed. I think you got to give it to them. That was like fair play. Well done. I came away from that game yesterday thinking about the St Kilda cheer squad and thinking, well, we could learn something from that. That's really unique what they've got going on. That's going to build as they rise up the ladder in the next coming years. Get to halftime, and it's just, I was struggling. I was struggling to just sort of find, how are we going to win this game? I didn't see a reality where we could win the game. The opportunities we were creating were just, it just wasn't looking good. I know that we were only 10 points down. What was it, 27-37? But it just looked laborious. It looked tough. But, that's kind of what we expected going into the game. The Saints were going to make it tough. We had to break through. And that's what St Kilda make you do, especially under Ross Lyon. So come back into Marvel from outside, getting some fresh air. And, everything is just hypersensitive. Maybe I'd had a bit to drink as well, and I just wasn't in the best headspace. But they were playing Let It Go, the Disney Frozen classic, and I just couldn't deal with it. I just couldn't. I just didn't like it. But just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. I don't know. I get it. We're building a family environment at the football. I get it. I don't know. It was like piercing white noise screeching in my ears as I got there, and I'm like, wow, we are Mickey Mouse, which we're at Marvel, so whatever. We get to the third quarter, and that white noise starts getting much more pronounced, and it happened when the Saints kicked 2 in a row. At one point we were down 20, and it was the passages of play where they've come forward and they've kicked the ball to the fat side to the same lead both times. And we didn't learn the lesson from the first time. They go up by 20, and then that ringing in the ears starts getting louder and louder, and everything starts getting numb. And I'm like, oh God, it's happening. And I lost a lot of hope in that third quarter. They just started getting on top of us. And at this point, we hadn't really shown much. We would kick a goal. They would stem the flow. It was hard to break through. I did think we played better in the third quarter. Then we get to the fourth. It was game on. That's the truth. It was, we just had to keep going, and we found a way. And, you've got to give it up to everyone who played yesterday, and, they lifted. I thought Sard started really lifting, particularly with some of his defensive efforts. You start seeing that red zone, that fight or flight activity happening, and you see who's got it, and you see who can lift in those moments, and you see who ascends when the fear kicks in. And Saad has got that. He's got it. He starts lifting. We had great production from our mids. I thought Pitternet battled with Rowan Marshall very well. Kicked a goal as well, which was good. That was a scary matchup going into the match, but I thought he just threw his body at him, which was what he needed to do. Marshall was always going to probably win the matchup, and Pitto just did his thing. I saw him lifting. I saw Hewitt all day lifting. He was fantastic. I saw Newman lifting all day. Then you get to the fourth, and then all of a sudden, Ashton Moyer's on. And I remember thinking it at the time. I'm like, I get it. The coaches will know, I guess, more than what I do. But fuck, man, he just looked like a forward target. Brodie wasn't looking like the forward target that he was last week for obvious reasons, because he's not fully trained as a forward in his career. Ashton comes on and he just had this presence about him, which is a remarkable thing to say for such a young player in his second game. Well, second quarter, because he only played a quarter last week. But he came on and it just looked like he fit in immediately, which is difficult because you've had 3 quarters of play to mentally be ready to perform, and to perform at such a young age in your second quarter. When everyone's played 3 quarters, it's impressive. So he comes on, gives us a little bit. Number of goals get kicked, but the 2 that really, I remember for a long time is, Ashton kicking his on the left. He had a few players that he could have kicked to, but he took the responsibility. And if he misses that, we're all saying, oh, he'll learn. He's got to hit up his teammate, but he kicks it. I like a player that can take the moment, and that's what the game required yesterday. Took his moment. Got us up and about. Jesse Motlop, in that passage of play, kicks a goal off the Fantasia handball, which was clever. And we're up. I'm hugging my brother-in-law. That was cool. That was crazy. That was a crazy moment. Up and about. Brodie Kemp takes a mark, or gets the free kick. Brodie Kemp has the shot on goal late in that fourth. And at that point, I'm thinking, well, if we're up, this would make it a 2-kick game. We're going to ice the game. They've worked their asses off. They've broken through the Saints in the fourth. He goes back. He shanks it. Didn't take his moment. And the Saints go down the other end. And, it all slows down again. The Jack Higgins goal, it happened on the opposite side of where I was sitting. It all ties into the same experience. I didn't feel it as a new moment, a heartbreaking goal like that, because Cozzy Pickett kicked one in a very similar fashion in 22. Nothing that ever happens can be as fucking devastating as what Jamie Elliott did a few years ago. Or maybe if it was in a final, maybe. But in terms of watching it there, live, so it just immediately went into that basket of, I've seen this before. Kicks the goal, 12 seconds to go. Funnily enough, at lunch, the table that I was sitting on had the number 12 on it. I was trying to figure out if that meant anything. And then we lose. Steph's devastated. She's never seen heartbreak like that live. She wasn't here for 2022. So she's devastated. I sat there when that final siren went, just absorbing it. I didn't go into yesterday thinking that if we lost, that I would still have hope for Port Adelaide to win. I went in yesterday thinking, if we lose, we're out and our season's dead. And so I thought our season was dead, and I walked and thought and lived and spoke like our season was dead. The walk back home to the train station and, in the rain and the storm was just the icing on the cake. We get done by the Saints at the death. Then we've got to walk outside, get pissed on by the rain. Really interesting vibes outside. Everyone, fair enough, starts going to, why didn't Ashton play? Why was Fantasia the sub? Why has Vossi got his favourites? Why do we let it slip? 11-4. When are we going to learn? What does this club have to do? Our strength and conditioning has been botched this year. Obviously, we start thinking about the season because it's dead. Finally get home, get on the fan cams, and, It felt like on the fan cams, we were mad and we were angry and we were devastated, but we weren't fully ready to let rip until the Port game had finished. And so there were some people that came on and we're mad and we're angry, and no matter what happens, we've got to stop getting in these positions. They've got to stop doing it. Even if we go all the way and win the flag, they've got to stop. They've got to take their opportunities when they're there. It was one extra game that needed to be won. Didn't need to be yesterday. It could have been done. We could have been fielding the kids yesterday in a game that didn't mean as much. So like the conversation was centered around taking your opportunities. We get to about an hour and a half into the fan cams, and then there's 5 minutes left in the Port game, and they're up, and they were up for the majority of the game. And my boys, the power from Port, pull off the victory. They get it done. 7 years ago, I met Port Adelaide in Shanghai. 7 years ago. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think. This channel was a podcast. It was an audio-only podcast when I met Port Adelaide in China in 2017. Met Boki, met Vossi, met Ken, their staff, their footy boss, Chris Davies. He's an elite operator. I was just so impressed with them from the outset and the way that they operated. And you get a window into being on the inside. I've never worked inside the AFL world. Never been in clubland, so I got a taste of it with Port. It was only for a couple of weeks every year. I've got Ari in my head, like rolling his eyes, like saying, "Oh, you're telling this story again, are you?" But it all just came back, and it had to be Port, and they get the job done, and we're playing finals footy, and that's the reality. Like, for me, I know it's frustrating. We shouldn't have been in the position, but finals football had to be like we had to play finals football. To win a premiership, you've got to learn how to play finals football because it all lifts, it all elevates. We got a little bit of a taste last year, and all of a sudden you started watching the devastation turn to hope and belief because the players are going to be healthy, fresh, rested, available. They're going to have a lesson learnt because they got torched yesterday. That would have been torture for those players yesterday who were injured that didn't play, hoping that their teammates would pull through. So, we're our footy season died. So in a way, like that harsh reality was lived. And then they get like a little second chance to do it again and survive and go again. And so it was the most incredible sequence of events. And, we go again. We will just fire up. We've got a week off. We play Brisbane at the Gabba Saturday night. And we go for it. We get a week off. I think everyone needs a week off. I am spiritually exhausted. So I'm going to be very much looking forward to the bye, if I'm honest. And that's that. It was a fascinating day. Well done to the Saints. They were brilliant. Fair play. Especially their cheer squad. And that's the way it goes. That is the way it goes. That was round 24, 2024. We win 13 games for the year and we qualify for finals. It was a really interesting conversation. Before the result of the Port game, it was, what a remarkable situation to be in. If Port Adelaide win, we deserve to be in finals. If Port Adelaide lose, we don't deserve to be in finals. The game continues to amaze me. So that's that. How about you? How did you experience yesterday? Please document everything. Yesterday will go down in the history books as one of the most ridiculous days we've seen. I really do believe that. That'll be the weirdest fan cams we ever do. So that was lived, and now it's a memory, just like that. So share your thoughts about round 24 and everything that happened. We'll go from there. Go Blues.